I really thought Navarro was gonna make it.
And forward this to Coruscant. Request permission to intercede.
They haven't returned a dispatch in weeks. They're swamped. We'll never get an answer in time.
Then I'm just gonna have to go there and talk to them myself. They can't ignore me face to face.
I like your attitude. Good luck. You're gonna need it.
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
One of the biggest questions fans have had about the overall Ahsoka Disney Plus show is exactly where does this show fit into the Star Wars timeline, and I even had another video here on the channel already discussing that. But thankfully, episode 7 of Ahsoka has given a specific answer on for when this show is actually taking place in the Star Wars timeline. At first, it was a bit confusing. Many had thought that Ahsoka fell around the year 11 ABY, after Battle of Yavin, which is around the same time as The Mandalorian Season 3, actually described as parallel to the events of The Mandalorian Season 3, even by Ahsoka star Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who plays Sabine Wren in the live-action show, said that the Ahsoka show is taking place during the same time as The Mandalorian Season 3. However, that appears not to be 110% actually the case. Although I will still credit her and give her that chance out there that, yeah, probably the two of these shows did overlap with one another at one point in time, but it appears that perhaps that the events of The Mandalorian Season 3 had actually happened, or at least ended, before the events of the Ahsoka series. Some of the live-action Star Wars shows like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, of course, are all interconnected within the Mandoverse, and all seem to be building towards that same inevitable point in the Star Wars timeline, building up to the events of the sequel trilogy, and then also with having Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie, or much rather Cultimation event movie, that had been announced at the beginning of this year at Star Wars Celebration. Think of it as an Avengers movie, but for Star Wars. If you're a Marvel fan, I'll have a Marvel channel linked in the description down below. So with that being said, it would have made sense for the Ahsoka series to be set around the same year as that last Disney Plus show under the Star Wars umbrella. However, that appears to not necessarily be the case. In the cold open 4 of Ahsoka Episode 7, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Hera Syndulla was seen meeting with a committee of the New Republic senators and public figures, and during this scene, she was being questioned and even criticized for being out on that planet of Seotist without authorization from the New Republic, on a kind of one-off mission. And so, as we see unfold in Ahsoka Episode 7, Carson Teva eventually came into the room to back up Hera, and at one point even confirmed exactly when Ahsoka takes place on the Star Wars timeline, saying that when Hera used the term Imperial Remnant, Nelson Lee's Senator Ziano chimed in and said that there's no proof of any coordination between the scattered and dwindling numbers of these Imperial forces. This caused Carson Teva to immediately stand up and ask Senator Zinio about the conflict of Mandalore that we of course see during the events of The Mandalorian Season 3. This is obviously referring to the events that occurred during Season 3 of The Mandalorian, when Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin and Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan Kryze brought a group of united Mandalorians together to their home planet of Mandalore to find that Moff Gideon had actually turned it into a fully operational Imperial base. This quick reference from Carson Teva confirmed that Episode 7 of the Ahsoka show takes place sometime after Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and since Carson Teva has had a reoccurring role throughout other episodes of the Ahsoka show, it's also safe to assume that the entire has followed The Mandalorian Season 3, of course, as well. Like, during the events of The Mandalorian Season 3, Carson Teva was off in that show doing other things, so instead of being in The Mandalorian Season 3, which those events are now over, we see Carson Teva now in Ahsoka. So the Senator Zinio even dropped Moff Gideon's name shortly after Carson Teva had questioned what had happened on Mandalore, with the Senator saying Gideon was a warlord, acting on his own, further proving that what fans saw at the end of The Mandalorian Season 3 did come before the events of the Ahsoka show. It is also important to note that fans were previously told that Ahsoka runs along the same timeline as The Mandalorian Season 3, as I had mentioned, according to Sabine Wren actress Natasha Liu Bordizzo. So there's a slim chance that like the first 2 episodes or something take place during the same time as The Mandalorian Season 3, but even then, honestly, that doesn't matter. This here all being said though, however, how long after The Mandalorian Season 3 is Ahsoka, and will we see any other references or tie-ins to that overall? I am hoping that we'll see that with the finale of Ahsoka, straight off the bat. So while the cold open was extremely revealing in terms of when Ahsoka takes place in the timeline, another small line of dialogue from later in the episode also had helped pinpoint exactly of where the Ahsoka show falls into place. As Iman Esfandi's Ezra Bridger was traveling with Sabine Wren through the wastelands of Peridia, he was trying to get caught up on everything that had happened in the Star Wars galaxy since he's left and been away. Ezra then started naming off some of the details that Sabine had shared with him, and at one point stated that Zeb's training recruits for the New Republic. This may have just been a bit of a fun line for us Star Wars Rebels fans, but as it was actually the very first time that the character's name was even mentioned in the Ahsoka show. But it's also explained that the Disney Plus show had followed directly after the events of The Mandalorian Season 3, as Zeb actually made a cameo appearance in Season 3 of The Mandalorian, of where he could be seen wearing his New Republic gear and everything. That meant that Zeb was employed and giving his services to the New Republic at that time, and since Sabine told Ezra that he still is, it's safe to assume that Ahsoka takes place on the timeline right after Zeb's on-screen appearance in The Mandalorian. And for those of you that are also wondering about Zeb's whereabouts and why he's continuously absent from the Ahsoka show disappointingly, I have a whole nother video discussing that already here on the channel, but this also has provided a bit of an answer as well, saying that he's just simply busy with the New Republic, off doing things with them. So overall, to recap here, and in conclusion here, overall, as for when and how The Mandalorian and The Mandalorian Season 3 and Ahsoka are tying into one another here more directly, and then also for when we actually have like an official timestamp or timeline of when the Ahsoka Disney Plus show is taking place in the Star Wars timeline, is essentially after the events of The Mandalorian Season 3. Like, it's all running pretty linear, and I really like that aspect and idea of the Mandoverse here overall, with both seasons, first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, Season 1 and Season 2, taking place pretty much back to back, and then you have the Book of Boba Fett, and then we have Mando Season 3, and then we have the Ahsoka show. Like, the way that they're being released is the way that they're taking place, and that's something that I absolutely love here about the overall Mandoverse. And as I had also mentioned a little bit earlier on in this video, I think that there's a potential that there's like a little bit of an overlap between The Mandalorian Season 3 and the Ahsoka show, but even then, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. If for anything, it's maybe for like the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, but as I had mentioned, probably doesn't really matter, honestly. And then lastly, with the whole tie-in there regarding Zeb and everything as well, as I had also mentioned, is that we see Zeb, of course, in The Mandalorian Season 3 making that cameo, and then that also kind of provides more of a context and more of an answer for how and why that ties into Ahsoka, like why we haven't seen Zeb, a part of the Ghost crew from the Star Wars Rebels animated show, not appear anywhere in the Ahsoka show as well. Like, this is like an explanation that he's off busy doing stuff with and for the New Republic, of course. Anyway, guys, of course, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. What do you guys want to see with the last episode of Ahsoka and the future of the Mandoverse here, just overall, especially regarding on how everything kind of ties in together? I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions and theories in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.